Yo, what is up, Mysta Clan? This is your boy, SixMysta Jonathan, aka the SixMysta Man, and today we're back at it again with a whole new video series. And what if Deku had a telekinesis quirk, aka what if Deku was a telekinetic? Today we're gonna get into part one of this series, this long-running series that's gonna be posting once a month. So if you are wondering the next time one of these videos are going to come out, it is exactly in 1 month. So if you are enjoying uh, these types of videos so far and you want to see more of them, make sure to smash like, smash subscribe, and hit that bell notification. And without further ado, let's get into this.
Shake it like it's heat. Hold the drive. Coming through now. Coming through now. Coming through. Watch where you going. Hold the drive.
We will start off our story here with Deku still being a young child. Young and child are kind of the same thing, so a child. We see him being the first person within his class that is not a mutation type to awaken their quirk. And in this case, he would not awaken it in school, but at home in his sleep. Obviously, meaning Inko would be the first person to take notice. With her being the first person to take notice, she would take off as soon as possible and take him to the quirk doctor for a diagnosis. It would turn out that he has a telekinetic slash telekinesis quirk that is derivative of Inko's, meaning it either evolved from or directly descended from Inko's, but until he is older, it would be unclear. And since it is more or less like Inko's, she should be able to teach him how to hold back accidentally activating his quirk or anything like that. And I do feel that she would teach him the bare basics, like how to not unconsciously use it, how to activate it when he wants to, how to lift heavier things, and so on and so forth. This is when things start getting complicated. Yes, he was the first to awaken it in his class, but soon after, Bakugo would also awaken his quirk. At first, Bakugo would start becoming really toxic, looking down on everyone who isn't him or Deku, since Deku is still in a sense his best friend, and on top of that, there would be one interaction that would prove to Bakugo that Deku is strong. And this would be in that scene where Bakugo fell off the bridge into the river. I think Deku would use his quirk to grab Bakugo and lift him back up to the platform. Bakugo would be amazed and thus compliment Deku, and that's why he holds Deku on kind of a pedestal. But for this, I also think Deku would mellow out Bakugo since they are both doing really well progression wise. As time continues and they go up in years of school, both of them would grow immensely more powerful. Bakugo goes from being able to create firecracker like explosions to actually damaging explosions. And Deku, on the other hand, can lift things much heavier than his mother ever could, whilst suffering almost no lashback because of it, since he has a more direct form of telekinesis or telekinetic abilities, since he can lift things without it physically impacting his body or mind. But he obviously has a limit that can only be overcome by training. And something similar is true for Bakugo, since I do feel them spending more time together, being close friends, could also end in them training together, since we know even though it is illegal to train in public property, we still know Bakugo somehow did it on his own, meaning we can use this same analogy to say that him and Deku would probably train together on occasion, obviously using each other's quirks to train for similar opponents, leaving both of them with very creative ways of dealing with other opponents. For example, Bakugo developing a long range type of blast early on, like the pea shooter, and possibly even the ability to fly using his explosions. Since in this version, Deku can also touch himself, or technically he is touching himself. Thus, it means he can levitate himself. Sorry, I didn't mean to make that seem like Uraraka. But using his abilities, he can fly, he can make other things fly, he can enhance his strength by creating a telekinetic force around himself, and so on and so forth. This means by the time that the entire start of MHA would happen, with the teacher throwing the papers after asking what they wanted to be, saying he knows they all want to be heroes. Bakugo would probably go off and say that him and Deku are probably the only two that are going to become heroes, while the rest are probably going to become sidekicks to some B-listers or something. But this is where things start to get odd. We see that there's a more direct friend group than just the goons we kind of see originally, as we find out that Deku and Bakugo had friends outside of school with more efficient quirks. And in this case, it is two very interesting individuals. One is Kirishima, someone who had a hardening ability. Obviously, this would mean he is progressed by a lot since he is able to harden his body, and Bakugo would use him as target practice pretty often. Thus, I see Kirishima being a lot further in his progression, similar to Deku and Bakugo. On the other hand, we have someone whose quirk is not as strong, but who has a brilliant mind, that being Mina. Mina was actually kind of like friends with Bakugo, and when the entire Gigantomachia situation went on, we see that Deku and Bakugo had actually stepped in to help Mina. This is how they all became friends. Obviously, Mina would have tried to thank Bakugo and Deku, but they would have probably been on their way, making sure that Gigantomachia didn't attack anyone or something like that. Whilst obviously Kirishima would probably go to them like, that was so manly. Can you train me or something to be like you guys? Which I think would start off an early friendship. So I see the circle of friends pre-UA being Bakugo, Kirishima, Deku, and Mina. But now to speak on Deku's personality. He's a lot more easygoing. Yes, he is smart, but he's not as calculative. He is able to figure out any scenario near instantaneously, but is pretty useless when he can't use his quirk. He's also spontaneous and quirky and a lot more feminine than he originally is. No, I'm not saying that his sexuality changed or anything, it's just a descriptive way of describing how his personality is. So think about Mina in male form. That's kind of how Deku is. A little squeakier voice and a lot slimmer body, since he does not need to be much physical to use his quirk in particular. So we could obviously skip forward to Bakugo and most likely Deku going to their next training spot, which would most likely have something to do with the sludge villain. I see in this specific scenario, obviously the sludge villain trying to attack Deku or Bakugo, most likely Deku, like in canon, with Deku only using his quirk to fend him off and probably force him into a spot where then All Might would emerge to seal him away in the bottle. All Might, like usual, would put it in his back pocket, and in this time, complement both Deku's abilities and Bakugo's calmness, since they didn't overreact from seeing it, and also remind them that using their quirk in public is also illegal. Thus, he would leave, jumping off, but Bakugo would have something to say. He would start firing off explosions to get closer to All Might, with Deku just sighing and saying, well, I wanted to talk to him too, so as he takes off using his ability. They would get closer to All Might when Bakugo would lose control and hit into All Might. Not necessarily lose control as in his abilities went wired, but instead got a little mad when All Might wasn't responding to him, since All Might was in kind of a mental conversation with himself. The sludge villain, like usual, would be knocked out of All Might's pocket as he would land on a building along with Deku and Bakugo. Almost said Dekugo there. But thus he would transform into his skinny state, getting a harsh reaction from both Deku and Bakugo, which would lead him to explain. In this scenario, he wouldn't necessarily want to give his quirk to Deku, but he needed to explain it somehow, and he felt that these two, showing heroics, might deserve to know. And also, seeing their pure talent, he is more than confident that they will make it into UA, so maybe they are possible candidates. On the other hand, he would apologize and be off, while Deku and Bakugo would hear a scream. They would immediately make off as this scream sounds familiar. It sounds similar to one of their friends, Mina. She screamed once before like this when Kirishima snuck a fake snake into her bag. So they would make their way over to see Mina being covered in the sludge villain, but the sludge villain's color being a little bit different. Instead of being the green and black that he originally was, there is a lot of pink and yellow mixed into his skin, and him also ferociously screaming as Mina's acid is burning him whilst he's trying to take over. But he is more or less successful. Deku and Bakugo could not handle this, as Bakugo would rush in, blasting the sludge villain away, with Deku grabbing as much of him out of Mina's mouth, and whatever holes he went into, do not take that out of context. And Bakugo, once again, just trying to destroy bits of the sludge villain, with only a small portion of him remaining. All Might would appeared inspired as ever, buffing up and hitting that little bit of the sludge villain remaining into a facilitated container this time, as he would give it to the heroes to take off. He would then have a speech for the young Bakugo and the young Midoriya, as he says he is proud in the work the current generation of heroes are performing. He would help Mina, who was sitting up, and ask her if she is alright, with Kirishima even running up saying, "I'm sorry I couldn't help you, Mina. The heroes kept holding me back. I would have totally wrecked that dude." With Mina obviously shrugging it off, saying that she's okay thanks to Deku. In this case, Mina actually has some sort of a crush on Deku, since they are very similar, having similar tastes in music, the same concept of fun, having all these same, I guess you could say, personality traits that would make them compatible. On the other hand, this is where All Might would offer to train Deku and Bakugo, with obviously Kirishima jumping over, his skin hardening and going, "That's amazing for you guys. You're gonna get trained by the #1 hero. I wish we could be there too." With Mina also jumping and congratulating them, similar to how Kirishima just did, with Deku actually looking to All Might, saying that both him and Bakugo have more emitter type quirks, while Mina's quirk could really benefit from physical attributes, and obviously Kirishima's hardening ability needing a physical touch. All Might would agree to train them as well, but he does want to have some sort of hands-on relationship with Bakugo and Deku's performance, or how do I say it, enhancement or progression, as they would all mutually agree to train together. But yeah, guys, that's going to be it for this video of what if Deku had a telekinetic quirk. If you want to see the next part of this, tune in next month, same time. This has been your boy Six. Peace.
Yeah, some days I feel unfazed, like when I'm with my friends with a cup raised. Come Monday, I got a gun raised, suicidal do a dime till hump day. Then I go right back at it like an automatic. More drinks, more songs, more beats to rap. I need a shrink, I'm gone, more time keeps passing. No watch, no thoughts at all, just a hat, new era. Rep my P's and those O's, need the Phillies with the orange and black to feel home. From Citizens Bank back to Camden Yards, it's a tale of two cities, and trust we go hard. Trust we go hard, yes we go hard. You said we go hard, I said we go hard. Rockin' my Bob Cousy, stocking up on the loose. The lyrics come easy, but the life is a doozy. And yes, I'm choosy, and no, I won't settle, but I still take pop off over that kettle, cause I'm talking bigger picture. And yes, I'm gonna hit you with the